So good to see you all. Hope you're having a wonderful Labor Day weekend. So before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of the First Nations and Native American peoples. So I know here where I am in Vancouver, I'm on the land of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. But those of you online might be on the land of other nations. So if you'd like, please feel free to write those nation names in the chat. And if you don't know what land you're on, you can always look on nativelands.org and you can actually see maps so you can figure out what nation's land you're on if you're interested. So let's always remember our connection to our siblings in these nations. And let's pray for the day in which we might be with them in right relationship. So welcome. Welcome to Living Interfaith. Know that the whole of you is welcome. You're not asked to leave who you are in your own homes. Please bring who you are in with you. But what you are asked to remember is that everyone around you has brought who they are in with them as well. And all of goodwill are welcome. It's so good to see you all. When you're ready, Bruce and Cheryl have a song for us.
Is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come, come, whoever you are, though you've broken your vows a thousand times, even ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come, whoever you are, though you've broken your vows a thousand times, even ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
Thank you so much. So I have some announcements. I have a decent number of announcements, just as a heads up. So my first announcement is next Saturday, September 9th from 6 to 8 p.m. There's going to be a book launch by Helen Knott at the Museum of Vancouver. So Helen Knott is a Dane, Za, Cree, Métis, and mixed European descent woman from the Prophet River First Nations. And she's the author of the nationally best-selling book, In My Own Moccasins. So she just wrote a second book, Becoming a Matriarch, and this is going to be her book launch at the Museum of Vancouver. So you can register to go to this. It's going to be a free event there. I'm going to put the registration page in the chat. And if you do go, you actually get free admission to the museum all day. So this doesn't start till the evening at 6 p.m. So you can go and you can check out the museum and then hear her talk that day. So it's next Saturday evening. Also next Wednesday, September 13th, so not this coming Wednesday, but the following week, from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, there's going to be a free Zoom event. It's an all-party interfaith caucus. So it's organized by the Multi-Faith Summit Council, which is amazing. And the topic is going to be the relevance of preserving religious freedom. So folks from different faith traditions are going to be meeting with political leaders here in BC who are from all different parties, and talking to them about the importance of protecting our religious freedoms and what we can do as interfaith groups to try to make sure that we're protecting each other. So you can register for that event. I'll actually be the moderator, so it'll be quite interesting. And you can register for that by emailing them here. So that's not this coming Wednesday, but it's the following Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. The Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat's BC Youth Association is raising money for Delta Hospital and the Surrey Food Bank. So they're going to be taking part in a Run for Delta event on Sunday, September 17th at 11 a.m. at the North Delta Track and Field. And you can either run with them if you'd like. They'd love to have more runners, or you can donate towards this to support those groups, the Delta Hospital and the Surrey Food Bank, by going there. Sorry, I'm like flooding you with links right now. And finally, the Metro Vancouver Alliance is a really awesome group here in Vancouver that Rachel Jones, our fantastic managing director, has figured out how we can join as an organization. It's a group that brings together faith groups with unions and other kind of community organizing groups to try to get a feel of what people are facing in their own personal lives, and then kind of take these issues to government leaders. And so right now they're going to be sponsoring this series that's coming up called Wrestling with the Truth of Colonization. And this was created in conjunction with Indigenous communities here. So it's going to take part on 5 Tuesday and Thursday evenings, starting September 19th and going through October 3rd. It'll be on Zoom, so it is open to everyone. It'll be in the evenings between 6 and 8 p.m. It is important that if you sign up for it, it's free because we're a member organization now. So anyone who wants can sign up, and I'll put the information in the chat. But if you sign up to go, you have to go to all of them because they don't want you to get uncomfortable and then decide you don't want to go anymore, which I think is really important. And there's actually going to be a prep meeting on September 13th or 15th. So where you just get kind of an intro of what it's going to be like. And I also think it's amazing. It's going to be five sessions. And then it's going to be followed up with 3 in-person gatherings after that. A drum circle in November, and then in December, a lunch and learn at the Vancouver Friendship Center. And then in January, a guided tour of the Musqueam Cultural Center. So I've signed up as a participant. It looks really amazing. And again, you all can sign up if you'd like for free. Just say you're with the Living Interfaith Sanctuary. So yeah, hopefully we'll get to attend that. And many thanks to Rachel for making that happen. So that's what I have. Does anyone else have any announcements they'd like to give now? Yes, Bryn.
I just wanted to put a plug in for the Wrestling with the Truth, because I went to an introductory meeting in the summer when I was still in Vancouver. It was a group of young people from Missoula, Montana, who had done the training and came to talk with people here about it. And it sounded absolutely excellent. Like, I was so impressed with what I heard that day and the people that I met. So I would, if I was in Vancouver, I would definitely be signing up. So I urge everyone who can to do so.
That's great. Thank you so much, Bryn. Anyone else? Any other announcements at this time? Okay, well, here, let's come into silence. We can get started. So I have a prayer from my mentor, Reverend Stephen Greenebaum, who's here. Maybe he doesn't remember writing this, but I'm confident that he wrote it. It's in one of his books. We are one, one with our neighbor, humanity, and the universe. We are all star stuff. Every person, frog, tree, and every rock. We gather then not to codify our perceived uniqueness, but rather to celebrate our diversity without fear or hierarchy. Our differences are a cause for joy, not trembling. As siblings, we need not look alike nor think alike in order to love one another. May we always be guided by a respect for others as we respect ourselves and the universe we all share. May we be guided by compassion and community all the days of our lives. Amen. Thank you, Stephen. And then Rachel has a prayer for us.
So this is our candle lighting prayer, and this is from Reverend Eugene Pickett. We give thanks this day for the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations. For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons. For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements. For our human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression. For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared. For all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom. For human liberty and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose. We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Rachel. Now let's offer one another a sign of peace. So peace, everyone. So wonderful being with you today.
Peace all.
Peace. Peace.
Peace, everyone.
Peace, everybody.
Peace, everyone.
Peace to all.
Peace, everyone.
Beautiful. Thank you. And when you're ready, Bruce and
Yes.
Cheryl have a song for us.
Sa 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 simro gobinda. Sa 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 simro gobinda. Manentare ki utre chinda. Sa 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 simro gobinda. 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 Mayam tariki utre chinda. Sa 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 simro gobinda. 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 Manentare ki utre chinda. Sa 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 simro gobinda. 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 Manentare ki utre chinda. Sa 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 simro gobinda. Sa 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 simro gobinda. Simro gobinda. Simro gobinda.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Bruce and Cheryl. And I hope you see the note from Palji. He says that's truly amazing. We really appreciate your music. Let me share our joint affirmation. And then Mary, would you like to read it? Or if not, I can see if anyone else wants to read it.
You or someone else, please go ahead.
All right. Would anyone like to read the joint affirmation? If not, I can do it. Oh, Rebecca, you're on mute here. If we unmute you, would you like to read it?
Unmute. All right. We come together in peace. We sing together in joy and with love. We worship together in one house, a house with names beyond number. Our paths are many. Our beliefs are as leaves, and the tree that we cleave to is nourished by the light of compassion, justice, and mutual respect. May our lives, our beliefs, and our actions help to bring about the world of love we all seek, and let it begin here.
Beautiful. Thank you. Now is when we take some time to pray in our own homes and in our own ways. As always, there are so many causes that need our prayers. But I was reading about this disturbing case this past week of a 21-year-old mother of two in Ohio who was shot by police. They said she was shoplifting and she was pregnant at the time, and she was killed. They thought she took something, so their response was to shoot her and murder her. And also, there's a trial going on in Mississippi right now of 6 police officers that were torturing 2 Black men. They got a complaint that the Black men were living with a white woman, and that seemed not okay. Turns out one of them was her childhood friend, and she was handicapped, so they were living and taking care of her. And so 6 police officers broke in and tortured them for 2 hours and are now hopefully going to be found guilty for what they've done. So if we could take some time to pray for the victims of police brutality in these 2 cases and all over the world. Let's just take some time, my friends. Thank you. When you're ready, let's sing.
Goodness is stronger than evil. Love is stronger than hate. Light is stronger than darkness. Life is stronger than death. Victory is ours. Victory is ours. Through God who loves us. Victory is ours. Victory is ours. Through God who loves us. Goodness is stronger than evil. Love is stronger than hate. Light is stronger than darkness. Life is stronger than death. Victory is ours. Victory is ours. Through God who loves us. Victory is ours. Victory is ours. Through God who loves us. Goodness is stronger than evil. Love is stronger than hate. Light is stronger than darkness. Life is stronger than death. Victory victory is ours through God who loves us. Victory is ours, victory is ours through God who loves us.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Great choice. So now is when I usually say, if we met in person, we pass around a basket. Eventually, I should stop saying that because we haven't met in person for years, but I got in the habit of saying it. So now, even if we had a basket, I have a basket somewhere in the house. I don't even know where. I'd have to go looking for it. But regardless, I'm going to put our donation page in the chat. And thank you so much to all who donate. We're so grateful. Your donations go to support, especially Rachel, who, as I was just saying, is fantastic and has been running this whole ship herself, blessedly, for months now. And also go to support me and Bruce and Cheryl with their fantastic musical talents that they bring in each week. They're so wonderful. And two of our new staff members that I'll tell you about in a little bit. So thank you so much for your donations. And also, when we have speakers who are not me and are not people in the congregation, we do offer them honorariums to speak. And we made a policy recently. I can't remember whose idea it was, maybe Sandy's, but it was a really good idea, especially when we have speakers who are sharing personal stories that might be hard or difficult, things they've experienced, to try to make sure we offer them a higher honorarium. Just, to acknowledge that it's not easy to share these things. And then sometimes, depending on what someone's sharing, they need a lot of time to decompress. So I really appreciate that we have the ability to do that. So, Rachel's idea. Thank you so much. It's full of great ideas. Thank you so much, Rachel. So, I think I'm delayed. So thank you so much. And when you're ready, Bruce and Cheryl have a song for us.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Beautiful. Thanks, Bruce and Cheryl. Here, I'm awkwardly going to spotlight myself now, like I usually do for other people. I feel a little weird about that, but that way I know it'll show up well in the video. So we are celebrating our 5th anniversary as a congregation. So happy anniversary to us. I'm so proud of us. It was amazing. I very much remember trying to start this organization 5 years ago and saying, how do you unilaterally start a community? That's such a weird thing. Like, the goal is to have a community where we're all involved and getting to know each other and bringing our ideas and talents and work together. But how do you start that? So that was a very difficult thing to start, but we did, and we've been going strong now for 5 years, which has been wonderful. So I looked it up, and for a 5-year anniversary, the traditional gift is wood. And given all the forest fires and everything we've had going on here, I was thinking it'd be really nice if we have an interfaith tree planting gathering. I looked it up, and it is okay to plant trees in October, because I've been thinking, well, maybe only the spring is the only good time to plant trees, but that's not true. There are lots of trees you can plant in October up through the end of the month. So I think we should do that. So anyone who's interested, please let Rachel or I know. I think maybe send the messages to Rachel at Living Interfaith Sanctuary@gmail.com, and let her know if you'd like to do this. And we'll pick a weekend in October, and we'll get tree saplings and have a tree planting event together for our 5-year anniversary. I think that'd be really lovely. And then if you're not nearby, so it's not easy to come for that, feel free to do that as well. If you need some tips, we can talk about where to find tree saplings. I have little bit of an idea about this. We've been planting some trees here with the kids. And yes, and then take a picture of yourself with your tree, even if it's like this tall. I think it's just really inspiring, and certainly we need a lot more trees. So I think that'd be a really good way to honor our anniversary. So yes, let us know if you want to take part in that. We can do that next month. So yes, so we've been meeting for 5 years. I always like to have this service where we kind of reflect on what's going on. I'm someone that always does that kind of at the start of an academic year or at the start of the year anyway, kind of checking in and seeing how things have been. And yes, so I thought you might like to know that this is our 120th service as a congregation, which sounds pretty good. So we only meet twice a month, but I looked it up and this is our 120th service. So far, so good. And in the last 5 years, we've had 84 speakers join us. And so, because some people have spoken more than once, like myself and Reverend Stephen and a couple other people, but usually we get new speakers. So we've had 84 speakers, and they've come from 15 different faith traditions. And so if that sounds like more than you can imagine, here are the traditions we've had folks come from. And so we've had indigenous speakers, people from Hindu tradition, the Sikh tradition, Taoism, Zoroastrianism, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, Wiccan or neo-pagan, the Shinto tradition, humanist, Baha'i, people who identify as spiritual but not religious, and Mexican traditional. And so I think that's pretty good. I don't know. I think we've almost gotten, and Sufi, but it depends on if Sufi is considered part of Muslim or not, because people have different ideas about that. Sufis themselves have different ideas about that. So on our wall hanging behind us, I think we have almost all of them on here, but I can look and we can make sure that we're covering all our bases here religiously. So I think that's pretty good. And of these, as you know, so we used to meet in person at Trinity Grace United Church in Vancouver, which was so lovely. It was a beautiful space and it was so fun because then we got to actually hang out more with the speakers and have some lunch and get to know each other more. And the kids would play. It was really fun. And so we've talked about meeting in person again. But a couple reasons that we haven't done that. And if folks ever really want to do that, we could figure out how to do that. But it's nice because we have so many folks who aren't here in Vancouver who like to be a part of this. And we want to make sure wherever you are, even if you're like Bryn, where you're a longtime board member, but you move back to the States, that it's still possible to stay in the community and be an equal participant. So making sure we have all equal participation. And we have Paul G, who signs in every week, bless him, from Singapore, even though it's 1 a.m. So God bless you, Paul G. And so I want to make sure that everyone feels equally welcome, even if, I didn't want it to be that if some of us are in the room and others aren't, that there was some kind of different experience for the two groups. So I love that we come together equally this way. And also it enables us to get 84 speakers because I just don't know that many people from different faith traditions here in Vancouver who are willing to show up on a Saturday morning. So I love that by being online, it makes it possible for us to get people from all over the place, which I think is really wonderful. And finally, it makes it easier to record these because we try, whenever the speakers are comfortable with it, we record the services and put them online. And that's both so that those of us here are able to watch those later and listen to Bruce and Cheryl's music later, if we'd like. And also, if you can't come, that way you can always watch them. And so at this point, we have 115 videos on YouTube and 77 subscribers. Our most popular videos have almost 300 views. And the most popular ones, I think this is really cool, are when we discussed anti-racism, how to do the inner work of anti-racism, Islamic and Zoroastrian beliefs about the afterlife, and meditations on forgiveness and reconciliation. And I'm not someone that's into social media, so I don't care about those numbers for like a popularity contest kind of reason. But I think that having resources that we make available to other people is really good. So some of our principles here have to do with being as egalitarian as possible. So even if you can't come on a Saturday morning, especially if you're in the Jewish tradition and you're at synagogue on Saturdays and you're like, well, this isn't fair. Why'd you pick a day that I can't come? So at least if we have a way to record things and make them accessible later, and even if you aren't interested in being affiliated with us in any way, but you just want to learn about any of the topics that we cover, that way it's possible to do that. So that's kind of the reason we've been meeting online the last few years. So, and again, if folks ever do want to try to figure out more ways to meet in person, like when we have a tree planting event, I think that's really great. But otherwise, I like that we're open in this way. And then just if you haven't been with us from the beginning, I wanted to go over some of our policies here because I think these are really important. So I said we try to be as egalitarian as possible. So the way it kind of works is every religion or spiritual tradition gets a maximum of 2 services per year devoted to them. And we try to space them out. So we never have a month that's devoted to a particular tradition, but that way it's spaced out. So we're making sure we're taking turns. And then we have a rule that no one is ever allowed to preach about anyone else's faith tradition. So for myself, even though I'm the interfaith leader, I only ever speak about Buddhism or interfaith topics. So that way we're not kind of incorrectly, however well-intentioned, describing someone else's faith tradition. We're always inviting speakers from different traditions to join us so we can hear from them what it's actually like for them and what their own experience is. And also we try to get different speakers as much as we can. So like I said, we've had 120 meetings and I've had 84 speakers. So that's pretty good. That's not too bad. It means that we do a lot of trying to track down all the people we can find who'd be willing to come, which can take some time, but I think it's worth it. Because even, as you know, if we have people from the same faith tradition, they might have a totally different way of practicing their tradition or a totally different understanding of what their tradition is. And so that way it's opened up and we're getting as many different viewpoints as we can. So that's important for us. So even when we reinvite people to come back, we try to space it out. So it's no more than, every 2 years usually. So if you've ever spoken and then you wonder why we didn't invite you back right away, that's why, just because we're trying to get as many different perspectives as we can. And then also we try to make sure that our speakers are evenly divided between women and men, especially because it's so common that, I've spoken on interfaith panels with 9 speakers and I'm the only woman. So we want to make sure that we're highlighting women leaders in faith and making sure that it's equally balanced with men and women. And also that we have an equal number of BIPOC and white speakers. So especially if we're not just getting all white people from different traditions as the ones who are explaining their understandings of these, but it's trying to be as balanced as we can. And every year we have at least one queer affirming service, especially because studies show that I think it's more than half of queer people have left their home faith because they haven't been accepted there. And 1/3 of young people have walked away from religion entirely because they see that a lot of religions are not accepting of queer people. So we try to make sure at least once a year that we honor queer people in some way with a service to make sure that we also get that perspective and so that everyone feels equally welcome. So I think these are some pretty good principles. This is what we've been working on. If you ever think there are some other principles that'd be important for us to incorporate, let's make sure we do that too. So one of the benefits of starting a new kind of meeting or kind of group is you have a lot of freedom. So you're not trying to take something that was already one way and change it, but we're saying, I think this is really important going forward, that we kind of have this as part of our basis. So this is the basis behind how we plan these. And I'm happy to say that a couple weeks ago, Rachel set it up that I was invited to speak as part of Interfaith Awareness Week, which had interfaith leaders from all different countries and all over the place, speaking, many different speakers each day, speaking online. And I shared about these principles and about our work here, and also some of the ways that we've gathered over time. Because in addition to all the different ways I just described, that we try to get different perspectives and people involved, something I learned a while ago that some of you probably remember me speaking about is it's important that we don't think there's just one way to practice our faith. So I come from the Buddhist tradition, so you can think, okay, Buddhism means meditation, and that's the only way to live into Buddhism. But that isn't true. They're all different ways. They're engaged Buddhists who it's very important to do action in the world and have more of an activist kind of bent. And then there are people who are Buddhist, but for whom being in community is really very important. I'm very much like that, where the community is so core. So having events, community dinners or gatherings or things where we're coming together is important. Or people where the worship service or the ritual is very important. And that's the main way that they kind of have that transcendence and that connection to the faith versus more of an intellectual study. And if that's the main way. So in each tradition, there are these different versions of this. So kind of if it's a community thing or a worship thing or an intellectual study, or if it's an activist thing or a more meditative or contemplative thing. And so making sure that we try to incorporate those as much as we can too. So that's one of the only things, I think that's the only thing I don't like about interfaith dialogues is they're often very intellectual And so making sure that we're not just speaking to folks for whom like intellectual study is the core of their practice, but also if they're not interested in intellectual study, but instead they're interested in community gatherings or activism or contemplation or anything like this, that there's a way for all of those to be seen and recognized. And so even though we're a small community, we've done what we can over time to incorporate meditations and going to activist events together or having dinners together or some of these things so that we're covering as many bases as we can. And so when I was speaking at this Interfaith Awareness Week, I was speaking about all these things that I am now. And they said, this is actually really hopeful. I guess the organizers of that event said they hear folks speaking each year. I think this was the 7th or 8th year, but they said this is actually one of the most inspiring communities they've seen in that way, because we're not starting in one place. We're trying to automatically add on as many different perspectives from the beginning. And that a lot of times you'll have a group, and these are wonderful, and I don't have any negative feelings about this at all, but often there are groups where they're just trying to bring together maybe 2 religions, or maybe only like male speakers from the religions, or maybe only intellectual study, or only contemplation, or only activist work, or something like this. But we're starting from the beginning to try to incorporate as many different understandings as we can. And so they said that's actually really inspiring. And they feel like that's the direction that all the different faiths are realizing we have to move in over time. And that's something I'm hearing from more and more faith leaders, is they're seeing even in their own religions and their own practices that like, wow, the kind of stuff you're trying to do here, that's what we're working towards now too. That same kind of opening up. So how do we have more interfaith gatherings? How do we invite more leaders or more people who are speaking? So it isn't just coming from one person each week, this kind of preaching each week. How do we open this up in new ways? And so I feel really lucky that I've gotten to study, along with many of the people in this group, to study some of these understandings of faith traditions and trying to incorporate them in what we do here. And so I feel like it's been really inspiring, really powerful. I'm very happy to report that last week there was a different interfaith event that I had nothing to do with, but it happened because of what we do here. And I thought it was so cool. So every year we have our big Passover Seder. And this past year we had a Passover Seder with the Jewish community and the Christian community primarily, as well as folks here. And the clarinet player in the band is Christian. But because of that Seder, he's gotten to know Shirley Berlowitz, who is our friend at the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. And they've since gone on where she's invited him to play music at several of their events in the Jewish community. And he now has a job at a big United Church here. And so he actually organized with her a Jewish Christian Day of Friendship, where they had many different speakers. I think it was like 4 different services over the course of the day, and gatherings and ways to bring Jews and Christians together. And he wrote to me afterwards and said, this never would have happened if it wasn't for the sanctuary. It was because of what you all are doing that I came in, I got to meet Shirley. I think this is really important. The kind of stuff you do here is where we all need to move. So then I was happy in my church that they're willing to open it up. And I love that they said this is our first annual event of this kind. We want to keep this kind of thing going. And Shirley actually said she works in the only office for CEJA, the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, that has any relationship at all with a non-Jewish group, with like another faith tradition. And it's through the work here, through our work and some of the other interfaith work she does. So I think it's so beautiful that our interfaith work together can actually like then spark other things, right? We never know kind of what we're doing. We're kind of focusing on one thing, but we never know how it's going to feed out and help other people and then kind of spark new projects. So I've been very happy to see that over time. So I guess I know some folks have to get going. It's 11 o'clock. I just want to say that I just finished reading the book True Reconciliation by Jody Wilson-Raybould from the Kwakwaka'wakw Nation. And in it, she says that even though there are all these different movements towards reconciliation, the thing that she says is most needed is for more people to embrace the idea of being in-betweeners, which she describes in a particular way, but I think it really fits what we do here, where she says our problem overall, both in reconciliation work and elsewhere, is that we don't understand each other, our ways of talking, of viewing the world nearly as much as we need to, nor as much as we think we do. So truly, we don't come together and get to know each other. So we don't understand each other and we end up living in these silos. And then we work at cross purposes to one another, even when it's unintentional. But she said we need people who are willing to be uncomfortable, who are willing to come together as an in-betweener and as to learn different ways of being, different ways of practicing and understanding each other, and then taking this knowledge to the different communities to help build up relationships across communities. And she says when we do that, we break down the silos that keep us separate from one another. And so really, the more we can embrace that, that's what we need for reconciliation. And so I agree with her that I think that would help in the reconciliation movement, but also in our work together, if we're okay with being this kind of in-betweener. So I think definitely as an interfaith leader, I feel like an in-betweener. And I hope those of you in this community feel that way too, and feel okay being that way. And I just encourage you to take some time to reflect. And maybe when, if you can stay afterwards for the chat, I'd just love to hear, like, what are the things you've learned in your time with us that has really been powerful for you? Any of the services or songs or facts or stories or anything that's really stuck with you? And then is there anything that's like caused you to do anything differently in your life outside of Saturday mornings because of our time together? So thank you so much for listening and happy anniversary. And now when you're ready, Bruce and Cheryl have one more song for us, and then I'll do our closing prayer.
Shalom, salam, shalom. Salam, shalom, salam. Peace to my neighbor, all life is holy. Salam, shalom, salam. Shalom, salam, shalom. Salam, shalom, salam. Peace to my neighbor, all life is holy. Salam, shalom, salam. Shalom, salam, shalom. Salam, shalom, salam. Peace to my neighbor, all life is holy. Salam, shalom, salam. Shalom, salam, shalom. Salam, shalom, salam. Peace to my neighbor, all life is holy. Salam, shalom, salam.
Gorgeous, Bruce and Cheryl. Thank you so much. I don't know what we'd do without you. You two are amazing. We're so grateful to have you with us. Thank you. And friends, let's go forward and have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. Let's take some time to rest, to enjoy our time with our loved ones. I hope this was a wonderful start of the weekend for you. And that you just go forward feeling loved, knowing how loved you are, how welcomed you are here, and just how important all your stories are and all your perspectives, no matter where you come from or what you're experiencing. Just love you all and have a wonderful weekend. Amen.